Welcome to First Unitarian Online, where we meet in a new way to seek, connect, and serve. We welcome you this morning, whether you're joining us from around the corner or around the world, and whether this is the first time you're visiting us or you're a longtime member of this community. As we begin our service, we respectfully acknowledge that in the city of Toronto, the land we gather on is the traditional territory of many First Nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. This morning, I am joining you from the traditional lands of the Scugog Island First Nation. May we continue to learn more about the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, the history of colonization in our regions, and the work of reconciliation that is ours to do. I'm Reverend Lynn Harrison. I'm joined this morning by Reverend Sean Newton, our music director Dallas Bergen, pianist Adam Sakiyama, and our AV technician Matt Rideout. Now, as we begin our service, I invite you to light a candle or a chalice if you have one nearby, and join with us in our chalice lighting words. As we light our chalice, may its flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth.
I call us to worship this morning with the words of Patrick Murphin. We have seen the great cathedrals, stone laid upon stone, carved and cared for by centuries of certain hands. Seen the slender minarets soar from dusty streets to raise the cry of faith to the one God. Seen the placid pagodas where gilded Buddhas squat amid the temple bells and incense. But here we build temples in our hearts. Side by side, we come together virtually, scavenging the ages for wisdom, cobbling together as best we can the stones of 1,000 altars, leveling with doubt, framing with skepticism, measuring by logic, sinking firm foundations in the earth as we reach for the heavens. Here we build temples in our hearts, a temple for each heart, a village of temples, none shading another, connected by well-worn paths and built alike on sacred ground. From those many and varied paths, we gather up to build up a community of love and commitment and hope. To express the highest aspirations of our congregation, let us lift up now our voices in the words of our covenant. Love is our doctrine. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
I bring you news of the life of the congregation. Today's real estate conversation is postponed. We just don't have enough sufficient information for a meaningful conversation about the viability of the property at this time. Please continue to watch First Light for updates. However, today we will hold the meeting that was to happen last week. That is the conversation on the CUC's initiative, Quest, a Vision of Our Faith movement. This will be held at 12:30 today, and after which we will consolidate a congregational response to the CUC's question. What is your vision of who we are as a faith movement, and who can we be as we move forward through the pandemic and beyond? You can also respond directly to the CUC. Deadline for those is December 14th. I'll drop that Zoom link in the chat in a moment. It's also available in First Light. December marks First Unitarian's fiscal mid-year point and the year end for charitable donations for income tax credits. If you have been giving regularly to our shared community, you will have recently received an update of your donation via email. If you have not received a notice by email, please check in your junk and spam folders. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to First Light for this information and for real estate updates. Also information on our upcoming Solstice Vespers, Blue Christmas, and Christmas Eve services, along with our other scheduled weekly activities. Sorry, just dropping that link for you. Now we'll settle into meditation. These words come from the Australian author Morris L. West. This is The Shoes of the Fisherman. It costs so much to be a full human being that there are very few who have the enlightenment or the courage to pay the price. One has to abandon altogether the search for security and reach out to the risk of living with both arms. One has to embrace the world like a lover. One has to accept pain as a condition of existence. One has to court doubt and darkness as the cost of knowing. One needs a will stubborn in conflict, but apt always to total acceptance of every consequence of living and dying.
We come now to a time in our service when we offer prayerful reflection on our sorrows as well as our joys. Our lives are singular, and yet they are deeply connected, intertwined in the interdependence of all life that includes each and every one of us. Opening ourselves now to the meaning and mystery of life in all its seasons, we affirm that what touches any one of us affects us all. Today we are holding in our hearts many sorrows and concerns, both close to home and around the world. As the city of Toronto has returned once again to lockdown, we pray for all those whose lives and livelihoods are severely impacted today. We hold in our hearts everyone seeking wisdom for difficult decisions now, everyone seeking strength for the difficult winter ahead. Today we hold in love and light all those who are ill with COVID-19, including our dear friend and administrator Afsoon Saba, who is living in California. Afsoon appreciates your prayers and your healing wishes today. At this time, we especially hold in our hearts all those who are grieving the loss of loved ones. Our love today goes out to Diane Bosman, Paul Bogner, and their family as they grieve the very recent losses of Diane's parents. Diane's father, Henry, passed away on Sunday, November 22nd, and her mother, Norma, on Saturday, November 28th, just yesterday, in Lethbridge, Alberta. Diane had been visiting her parents to help with her father's care when her mother also fell ill suddenly in mid-September. She has been caring for them ever since and anticipates returning here in December. Our hearts go out to you, Diane. We hold in loving awareness today all those struggling with stress, anxiety, and sadness that can intensify as the holiday season approaches, as well as those living in troubled relationships or working through difficult conflicts. And now, because a sorrow shared is a burden lifted, you are invited to share any personal concerns you're holding today or concerns that you hold for the wider world. You may type them into the chat, and I will do my very best to lift them up. Margaret today is thinking of an old friend who died last week of COVID in Iowa, where the pandemic is very bad right now. Ruth is sad for the reduced Christmas festival. Kate is holding in her thoughts First Unitarian and Neighborhood Congregation. Thank you very much, Kate, for those thoughts. They are very much appreciated as we continue in those conversations. Gabrielle Burns is thinking today of all those who are struggling with food insecurity. Marcy Perryman, thinking today of grandparents who cannot see their grandchildren. Yes, and Marcia. Mm-hmm. Bridget Swenson, again holding up Scarlett and dear friends. Her dear friend Ivy, whose cancer is advancing, and her mother Megan as well. Moara is thankful for the opportunity today. And Winnie extends concern for her mother-in-law Donna, for her sister-in-law Donna, dealing with her mother's deteriorating health concerns. Bronwyn Oatley, thinking of the brave land defenders at 1492 Landback Lane. 1492 Landback Lane. Laura Bennett is celebrating the installation of lights all over town on the 1st of Advent. We will have other joys to share as well, but that indeed is a wonderful joy. Margaret Newell, thinking today of all students who are struggling with online classes and becoming depressed at not being able to see friends. Wendy Peebles and Peter Bryden remembering their friend Rhonda Sussman, who passed away last week. I'm very sorry to hear that news. Emily Larimer is thankful for the work of Adam and for the internet online. Indeed, we are so grateful for Adam's music every week. Margaret Rao, thinking today of migrant workers and refugees fleeing conflict zones, especially in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Serena Sonnenberg shares her concern for those who find themselves houseless during the lockdown. I am extending also thoughts of people who are squatting in an abandoned home in our neighborhood today. Maura is thankful for the opportunity to celebrate the life of a late brother-in-law through hikes in the woods, separate from family but together. Thank you. Donald Cole is thinking today of those affected by the hurricanes which swept the eastern coast of Central America in Nicaragua and Honduras. May these and other concerns be met with love, care, and compassion today and in the days to come. In addition to the many sorrows that we carry, we also have joys to lift up today. Often in challenging times, the blessings of our lives, however small, can take on greater significance. Today, we share the great joy that 3 people have become voting members of First Unitarian in recent days. We are grateful to welcome and re-welcome V. Ledson, Alan Randall, and Jan Mahood officially as members of the congregation, with ongoing gratitude for their presence among us. In the new year, we will as a congregation formally welcome them in a Sunday service and in a member welcome gathering with other new members. Also in the wider community, we note with joy and respect that after 230 years, the Caldwell First Nation has now secured from the federal government its rightful reserve of ancestral land, beginning with a parcel of 201 acres in Leamington, Ontario. This is an important and long-awaited step of reconciliation in our region. As joys are beginning to be lifted up, I will share them as I read them with you this morning. Ellen Orr is grateful for the vaccines that are coming and for the scientists who are working so hard to make that happen, all of the researchers who are working on our behalf. Owen and Meg are thankful for Meg's new job as a street outreach counselor with those living in tents. Glad to know of that news today. Judith Dawson is grateful that her sister Beverly is joining from Jamaica today. Melanie Wilson is thinking today of all the tenants and activists working together for to win affordable housing for all. Jessica Holmes is grateful for the love in this community. Jim and Linda are thankful for the reduction in Christmas excess that the current situation brings. Sasha Akavi is joyful for the successful launch of Kate's latest wonderful book, Better Luck Next Time, in the virtual company of many friends, loved ones, and colleagues. Bridget Swenson, grateful for today's beautiful sunshine. Robin and Wren for fat, fluffy snowflakes, herbed salt on fresh eggs for breakfast. Sounds wonderful. Fresh air and sunshine. I am grateful for contact lenses, but I also find that occasionally they kind of make it still kind of hard for me to see. So I share that with you, that I'm struggling a little bit to see this morning. Suzanne extends her thanks to all UU family, blessings to our coffee house experience. Thank you for the coffee house experience, Dallas. It indeed was wonderful. And love to Wendy Onpu, for being an amazing elder. Danielle is celebrating the birth of Danielle and Tyler's first child, Zachary. Congratulations. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We are delighted to hear this news. Welcome, Zachary. Sabina McAllister extends the news that their family was so happy to, to run into first UU member Aleza, yes, and her son Devin on a hiking trail yesterday. Wonderful chance meeting. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Harold Wright is thankful for the Humane Society, for the new 8-month-old cat, Freya, who joined them last Sunday. What a wonderful addition to your family. And will you join me now for a time of prayer and contemplative reflection? Spirit of life, the divine known to us by many names, but beyond all naming, open us to the possibilities that arise each day, even during this uncertain season. Bring to our awareness the many ways we can care for one another, finding the strength and rest, nourishment and peace we need today. In the ups and downs of life, may we be free from fear. May we meet the moment before us with clarity and with conscience, grateful for life's adventure that we share so very briefly. As we move and breathe in the wonder of life with all living things on this earth, may we open our hearts again and again in love. Amen.
Our reading this morning comes from Jane Jepka, a UU minister. Last summer, when our family was visiting a friend's cottage, we slept wonderfully well. We just couldn't get over how soft the pillows were. I was so impressed, in fact, that I dug out a country store catalog and immediately ordered a couple of feather pillows, the softest they make. One fine day, the pillows arrived. After a lot of fanfare, I curled up for a nap, and yes, it was indeed the softest, most restful pillow on earth. But it smelled funny. The pillow drove me crazy. I couldn't place the smell, but finally, lying there half awake one night, the smell took me to my sister's farm. I suddenly knew what the feather pillow smelled like. It smelled like a chicken coop. Sometimes in life, we get exactly what we ask for. I ordered a feather pillow, and I got a pillow that smelled like feathers. We get what we thought we wanted. It doesn't seem right somehow, and the problem is so obvious that we can't even see it or smell it. Whoever said that we make the bed and then have to lie in it had a point. I invite you now to join in singing Winds Be Still if you feel so moved. I was, you might say, a curious child. As a kid, the build up to Christmas was usually more than I could bear. By the end of November, I would be rifling through drawers and closets in search of hidden Christmas gifts. It got so out of hand that Santa Claus resolved early on not to bring any gifts into the house that hadn't first been hermetically sealed in tamper-proof wrapping paper and bound tight with meters and meters of Scotch tape. For good measure, Mrs. Claus saw to it that each package was adorned with a booby-trapped bow that I'm now fairly certain was crafted from something closer to razor wire than ribbon. Yet in time, even these efforts proved an inadequate deterrent for my inquiring little mind, as I soon perfected the delicate art of performing reconstructive surgery on the packages into which I had taken a peek. Eventually, having exhausted every conceivable security measure, Santa resorted to an ingenious strategy, labeling all of the gifts under the tree with a set of cryptic names my brothers and I couldn't possibly decipher. One year we were Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. Another year, our gifts appeared bearing the names Cinderella, Snow White, and Wonder Woman. On Christmas morning, when all was to be revealed, a little name tag buried deep in the toe of our stocking informed us of the name of our holiday alter ego. Needless to say, I was outmaneuvered. Not knowing which of the gifts were eventually to be mine, the thrill of trying to decipher what treasure each held inside was gone. Yet I wish I could say that it was only curiosity that drove my investigations. When I look back on this time, I realize that I was at the age when Christmas begins to lose some of its magic. Already skeptical about Santa, I had begun to uncover the painful truth that even a Christmas tree surrounded by a mountain of gifts, including most everything I asked for, could leave me with feelings of disappointment. It's not that I wasn't grateful for what I received. It's just that I was learning tough lessons about life's longing after things, experiences, relationships that are only very rarely fulfilled to the exact specifications of our made-to-order demands. In other words, I was learning some of my first lessons about disappointment. In the year or two I was sorting all of this out as a child, I think my peeking into the packages was an early attempt to manage my expectations. If I knew what to expect, if I wasn't surprised, I thought I could somehow guard against disappointment. Now, of course, this approach only partially worked because I never considered lowering my expectations. For a time, I kept alive the hope that the magic might somehow return, even while bracing myself for the likelihood that it never would. If I had been raised a Buddhist rather than a Baptist, I might have known that it was my attachment to a particular outcome that was fueling this vicious cycle of raised expectations being later deflated by reality. But I trust I might have also learned that much of life involves balancing the challenges that come with the cards that life deals to us. It is a delicate balance, this tension between our expectations and their potential to be either fulfilled or dashed by forces often beyond our control. Holding this tension in balance is hard work, but it is the work of being human. As we near the end of a year unlike any other in our lifetime, it is worth asking ourselves how we balance the hope we have for our lives with the inevitability of life's disappointments, especially now in these days as so much of what we knew to be our lives have been upended by the pandemic. Disappointment is, of course, something known to us all. It's often experienced in different ways, but over time, and certainly over a lifetime, our list of failures, hurts, and woes, when tallied up, end up looking much the same. I love how UU minister Patrick O'Neill describes our difficulty in coming to terms with the inescapable changes and challenges that are part of the human predicament. Here is how it is supposed to work, he says. We are supposed to be adults about this business of making life transitions. We are supposed to understand and accept that life comes to turns in the road. Friends move on, children grow up, elders pass away with time. The world changes. Good things happen, bad things happen to everyone. Success is sweet, losses hurt. Goodbyes are hard and inevitable, the price we pay for allowing others into our heart. Life includes heartbreak and sorrow and regrets, along with laughter and friendship and love. But the love is what counts most. It is what tips the scales between a worthwhile life and a tragic one. Our wounds are supposed to heal, and we're supposed to forget the pain. We're supposed to act brave, though secretly everyone is terrified at some time or other. We're supposed to believe that it will all work out for the best someday, and that for every door that closes, a new door will open. We are supposed to grow old gracefully and happily. We are supposed to die peacefully in our sleep, surrounded by those who love us. But here, he says, is how it really works. People tell us all of this when we are young, but we don't really listen to the parts that we don't want to accept. That is, until we have to live through them. Then we complain that no one told us how hard all of this was going to be. We're supposed to take our hits and keep our dignity and our wits about us at all times. But the truth is, life is often lived in a full state of panic with all dignity thrown to the winds. We lose it sometimes, all of it. Our dignity, our composure, our confidence, our tempers, our self-respect, our friendships. Some wounds don't heal. Some do, leaving ugly scars. Not everyone gets to grow old or be happy. Sometimes doors just close. But the love is what counts most. That part holds true, and it is what tips the scales between a life that is worthwhile and one that is tragic. In all of this, I, of course, agree that love is what counts most. It's something that we all seem to remember most of the time. But in my work as a minister, it is the thing I see people most prone to forget when difficult changes bring disappointment to our doorsteps. And that is why I think that disappointment packs such a powerful punch. It can divert our attention away from what truly matters, often distancing us from the very love we need to overcome life's hurts, even sometimes inviting us down the unhelpful path of anger and resentment. I've seen disappointment do its most insidious work when it leads us to believe that all is lost, and that the sacred ties that bind our lives one to another are well beyond repair. We allow disappointment to win when we sacrifice on its altar the future of our relationships or the hopes and dreams that give our lives meaning and purpose. Disappointment may indeed at times spell a dead end, but it also often provides the gift of hard-won wisdom that can be ours for the taking. If we will only heed that wisdom, taking from it whatever bittersweet lesson is to be had, life's disappointments can often bring unexpected blessings. In this way, disappointment can lead us to deeper living. Writing at the turn of the 18th century, Joseph Addison put it this way: "Our real blessings often appear to us in the shape of pains, losses, and disappointments. But let us have patience," he said, "and we soon shall see them in their proper light." The patience that Addison refers to implies the passage of time. And while time certainly can help, it must also be said that time alone won't and can't heal everything. Healing from disappointment, I believe, demands something more of us, and I think that more comes from our values. At the heart of our faith as Unitarians is, I believe, an abiding hope for reconciliation and restoration, for tikkun olam, for the healing of the world, to borrow a phrase from our Jewish friends. Our first and seventh principles, which uphold the dignity of the individual and the sanctity of the web of life, call us to a quality of relationship that can overcome disappointment with forgiveness and acceptance and grace. Those can be loaded words, and they are very human words that speak to a willingness to move ahead together, even amid hurt and heartbreak, by saying yes to life as we go, by not letting our disappointments have the final say. I've been recently mulling over the wisdom from Theodore Parker, who some 2 centuries ago said that disappointment is the salt of life. Considering the various qualities of salt, I've marveled at the many ways his statement still rings true. Much like salt, disappointment does indeed give flavor to our lives. And as we all know too well, it can sting, burning into a wound like little else. But there is also a preservative property to salt, and I dare say to disappointment too. I see that preservative potential in all that I've just said about forgiveness and acceptance and grace, in the commitments we make in our hearts to pick up the pieces and forge ahead when all might otherwise seem to be lost. I do think the Rolling Stones got it right on this one. We can't always get what we want, but we can very often, with some work, get what we need. This is a lesson to carry with us through this strange season of our lives as we navigate the 1,000 little losses that have come with the pandemic. The story of how we thought this leg of our life's journey would play out has been radically rewritten for most of us. And while there have been some silver linings and unexpected blessings from this ordeal, it has also challenged us and changed us with many disappointments along the way. We are hopefully near or even beyond the halfway point in this global crisis. The coming months will be a test of our endurance and of our commitment to the well-being of everyone around us. No small part of this test, of making it through this time as best we can, is spiritual in nature. For it ultimately comes down to our ability to find the inner peace to carry us through these difficult days. That means being real about our predicament, accepting our disappointments and grieving our losses, even while we work to save what can be saved. It means coming to terms with the challenge of change and with the loss that comes with deep disappointment. And from all of that, summoning from a deep sense of peace the strength to carry on. Many different religious traditions speak to finding this type of peace, but none, to my mind, as powerfully as Buddhism with its sense of equanimity. Equanimity is not a detached indifference, but it is instead an unshakable evenness of mind, no matter the surrounding circumstances, that is achieved through intention and regular spiritual practices that deepen our capacity for mindfulness, compassion, and loving kindness. In these trying times, my hope for each of you is that you might find the balance of equanimity to carry you through, that amid the changes now upon us, you may be able to find peace, accepting life's losses as they come and letting go of its disappointments. For such a peace is a wondrous gift in any season, no matter how well it is wrapped up. Amen.
can't buy a job. As a man in the silk suit hurries by, he catches a poor old lady's eye. Just for fun he says, get a job. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. Oh, don't you believe it? Hey little boy, you can't go where the others go. 'Cause you don't look like they do. He said, hey old man, how can you stand to think that way? Did you really think before you made the rules? And he said, that's just the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. Oh, that's just the way it is. Don't you believe it? Well, they passed a law in '64, give folks who ain't got a little more. But it only goes so far. 'Cause the law won't change another's mind when all you see at the hard time is the line on the colorbar. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. Oh, but don't you believe it? Don't you believe it?
As our service comes to a close, I invite you to extinguish any candles or chalice you might have burning at this time. And rather than inviting you to take hands, as we sometimes have been doing in recent weeks in a virtual sense, I invite you instead to settle in for the benediction, which is a bit longer than usual, because I want to share with you this beautiful poem called November by Lynn Unger. It's my favorite new poem. It was written just 9 days ago. It really speaks to the season. Is there anything left to be said about the blaze of autumn leaves, the way they let go with such graciousness, how they dance on the wind and crunch under the feet and glow in the afternoon light? Maybe just this: the colors fade. They turn sodden as milky cereal in the gutters and sidewalk. The trees look tattered and then vulnerable and exposed. It turns out that loss is really loss, which is every bit as much a part of the story as autumn's glamour. Listen, you are not obliged to be beautiful. You don't have to shine. Blooming will happen when it happens. If you can be still for a moment, you might notice that the roots that feed you are still reaching silently through the dark. May it be so for us all. Blessed be.
Thank you again for joining us today. If you missed the announcement earlier, today's real estate congregational conversation has been postponed, but the discussion, the CUC Visioning Conversation Quest, will happen today at 12:30. You're invited to stay for small group discussions following the service on Reverend Sean's guiding question. How are you finding equanimity or peace and balance in your life these days? And if you're a newcomer, you're welcome to join those conversations, or if you like, we have a newcomer space available as well. You can find the Zoom link on the website. Thank you again for being here, and wishing you all wellness in the week ahead.